Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets by J.K. Rowling. Very well. Go and don't breathe a word. Not that, however, if you didn't read. Go now. I have to wire up Peeves. Report. Go. Amazed at this luck, Harry sped out of the office, up the corridor, and back upstairs. The escape from Filch's office without punishment was probably some kind of school record. Harry, didn't walk! Nearly Headless Nick came glinting out of the classroom. Behind him, Harry could see the wreckage of a large black and gold cabinet which appeared to have been dropped from a great height. A persuaded piece to crash and right out of Filch's office, said Nick eagerly. Thought it might distract him. Was that you? Said Harry gratefully. Yeah, it walked. I didn't even get its attention. Thanks, Nick. They set off the corridor together. Nearly Headless Nick, Harry noticed, was still holding St. Patrick's rejection letter. I wish there was something I could do for you about the Headless Hunt, Harry said. Nearly Headless Nick stopped in his tracks and Harry walked right through him. He wished he'd hadn't it. It wasn't like stepping through an ice shower. But there is something you could do for me, said Nick excitedly. Harry, would I be asking too much? But no, you wouldn't want. What is it? Said Harry. Well, this Halloween will be my 500th Deathday, said Nearly Headless Nick, drawing himself off and looking dignified. Oh, said Harry, not sure whenever he should look sorry or happy about this. Right. I'm holding a party down in one of the roomy undergrounds. Friends will be coming from all over the country. It would be such an honor if you would attend. Mr. Weasley and Miss Granger would be more welcome too, of course. But I dare say you'd rather go to the school feast? He watched Harry on tenterhooks. No, said Harry quickly. I'll come, my dear boy, Harry Potter at my Deathday party. And he hesitated, looking excited. Do you think you could possibly mention to Sir Patrick how very frightening and impressive you find me? Of course, said Harry. Nearly Headless Nick beamed at him. A Deathday party? Said Hermione keenly, when Harry has changed the last and joined her and Ron in the common room. I bet there aren't many living people who can't say they've been one to those. It will be fascinating. Why would anyone want to celebrate the day they died? Said Ron, who was halfway through his potion homework and grumpy. Sounds dead depressing to me. Rain was still lashing the windows, which were now inky black, but inside all looked bright and cheerful. The firelight glowed all over the countless squashy armchairs, where people sat reading, talking, doing homework, or, in the case of Fred and George Weasley, trying to find out what would happen if you fed a silbuster firework to a salamander. Fred had rescued the brilliant orange, fire-drilling lizard from a care of magical creatures class, and was now smothering gently on a table surrounded by a knot of curious people. Harry was on the point of telling Ron and Hermione about Filch and the quick spell, of course, when the salamander suddenly whizzed into the air, emitting loud sparks and bangs as it twirled wildly through the room. The sight of Percy Beaumont himself froze at Fred and George, the spectacular display of the tangerine stars showering from the salamander's mouth, and its escape into the fire, with accompanying explosions, drew both Filch and the quick spell envelope from Harry's mind. By the time Halloween arrived, Harry was regretting his rash promise to go to the Deathday party. The rest of the school were happily anticipating the Halloween feast. The great hall had been decorated with unusual live bats. Hagrid's vast pumpkins had been carved into lanterns large enough for 3 men to sit in, and there were rumors that Dumbledore had booked a couple of dancing skeletons for the entertainment. A promise is a promise, Hermione reminded Harry bossily. You said you'd go to the Deathday party. So at 7 o'clock, Harry, Ron, and Hermione walked straight past the doorway to the packed great hall, which was glittering wickedly with gold plates and candles, and directed their steps instead towards the dungeons. The passageway leading to Nearly Headless Nick's body had been lined with candles too, though the effect was far from cheerful. These were long, thin, blackjack tapers, all burning bright blue, casting a dim, ghostly light even over their own living faces. The temperature dropped with every step they took. As Harry shivered and drew his robes tightly around him, he heard that sounded like 1,000 fingernails scraping an enormous blackboard. Is that supposed to be music? Ron whispered. They turned to a corner and saw Nearly Headless Nick standing at a doorway hung with black velvet drapes. My dear friends, he said mournfully, welcome, welcome. So pleased you come. He'd swept off his plumped hat and bowed them inside. It was an incredible sight. The dungeon was full of hundreds of pearly white, transcolored people, mostly drifting around a crowded dance floor, waltzing to the dreadful quatrains out of thirsty magical songs, played by an orchestra on the black draped platform. And chandelier overhead blazed might be blue with 1,000 more black candles. Their breath rose in a mist before them. It was like stepping into a freezer. Shall we have a look around? Harry suggested, wanting to warm up his feet. Careful not to walk through anyone, said Ron nervously as they set off around the edge of the dance floor. They passed a group of gloomy nuns, erect men wearing chains, and the fat friar, a cheerful Hufflepuff ghost, who was talking to a knight with an arrow sticking out of his forehead. Harry wasn't surprised to see that the Bloody Baron, a gaunt, staring, slithering ghost covered in silver bloodstains, was being given a white berth by the other ghosts. Oh no, said Hermione, stopping abruptly. Turn back. I don't want to talk to Morning Middle. Who? Said Harry as they backtracked quickly. She haunts the girls' toilet on the first floor, said Hermione. She haunts a toilet? Yeah, it's been out of order all year because she keeps having tantrums and fluting in the place. I never went in there anyway. If I could avoid it, it's awful trying to go to the loo with her waiting at you. Look, food, said Ron. On the other side of the dungeon was a long table, also covered in black velvet. They had approached it eagerly, but the next moment had stopped there in the tracks, horrified. The smell was quite disgusting. Large, rotting fish were laid on handsome silver platters. Cakes burnt chaotical blacks were heaped on the salvers. There was a great maggoty haggis, a slab of cheese covered in furry green mold, and, in pride of peace, an enormous grey cake in the shape of a tombstone, with terror-like icing forming the words. Sir Nicholas de Mimsy-Portugal died 31st October 1492. Harry watched amazed as a portly ghost approached the table, crouched low and walked through it, his mouth held wide so that it passed through one of the sticking salmon. Can you taste it if you walk through it? Harry asked him. Almost, said the ghost sadly, and he drifted away. I expect they'll let it to give a stronger flavor, said Hermione nonchalantly, plaiting her nose and leaning closer to look at the protruding haggis. Can we move? I feel sick, said Ron. They had barely turned around, however, when a little man swooped suddenly from under the table and came to halt in midair before them. Hello, Peeves, said Harry cautiously. Unlike the ghost around them, Peeves was poltergeist, though was the very reverse of plate and transparent. He was wearing a bright orange party hat, a revolving bow tie, and a broad grin on his wide, wicked face. Nibbles? He said sweetly, offering them a bowl of peanuts covered in fungus. No thanks, said Hermione. Heard you talking about poor Beetle, said Peeves, his eyes dancing. Rude you was about poor Beetle. He took a deep breath and blew out. Oi, Myrtle! Oh no, Peeves, don't tell her what I said. She'll be really upset. Hermione whispered freshly. I didn't mean it. I don't mean her. Hello, Myrtle. The squat ghost of a girl had glided over. She had the gummest face Harry had ever seen, half hidden behind lang hair and thick, pearly spectacles. Whoa, she said sulkily. How are you, Myrtle? Said Hermione in a facely bright voice. It's nice to see you out of the toilet. Myrtle sniffed. Miss Granger was just talking about you, said Peeves slyly in Myrtle's ear. Just saying how nice you look tonight, said Hermione, glaring at Peeves. Myrtle eyed Hermione suspiciously. You're making fun of me, she said, silver jewels swirling rapidly in her small, see-through eyes. No, honestly, didn't I just hear how nice Myrtle's looking? Said Hermione, nudging Harry and Ron painfully in the ribs. Oh yeah, she did. Don't lie to me, Myrtle gasped, tears now floating down her face, while Peeves chuckled happily over her shoulder. Do you think I know when people call me behind my back? Fat Myrtle, ugly Myrtle, miserable, moody, moping Myrtle! You missed out, Spotty! Peeves hissed in their ear. Morning Myrtle burst into ungushed sobs and fled from the dungeon. Peeves shot after her, spankling her with mildly peanuts, yelling, Spotty, Spotty! Oh dear, said Hermione sadly. Nearly Headless Nick now drifted towards them through the crowd. Enjoying yourselves? Oh yeah, they lied. Not a bad turnout, said Nearly Headless Nick proudly. The wailing window had all the way up from Kent. It's nearly time for my speech. I'd better go and warn the orchestra. The orchestra, however, stopped playing at the very moment. They and everyone else in the dungeon felt silent, looking around in excitement as the haunting horn sounded. "Oh, here we go," said Nearly Headless Nick bitterly. Through the dungeon wall burst a dozen horses, each ridden by a headless horseman.